Welcome to Inspiring Women in Audit, the only podcast celebrating the achievements and journeys of women in the internal audit industry. In each episode, we spotlight the extraordinary stories, insights, and expertise of these dynamic professionals. Our aim is to amplify their voices, inspiring a new generation of women auditors to share their knowledge, experiences, and unique perspectives. Remember to check our show notes for links to our social media channels and to subscribe to the Inspiring Women in Audit newsletter. This podcast is brought to you by I4 Global Results Limited, the audit communication experts, dedicated to transforming your audit reporting and your audit results through communication, optimization, and collaboration. Now, let's dive into this episode of Inspiring Women in Audit.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Inspiring Women in Audit podcast. My name is Tracy Marquardt, and with me today is Fiorella Coto Zevallos. She is a global audit, risk, and controls leader with more than 15 years of experience building and scaling internal audit functions across Europe and internationally. She has held senior audit roles in beverage, technology, and fast-moving consumer goods sectors. She brings a unique approach to her work. She has been in all three lines of defense and worked on 3 continents, and brings a rich perspective to her current role as head of assurance methodology and quality, managing strategy, transformation, and key projects for the assurance department. Fiorella, welcome to the Inspiring Women in Audit podcast.
Thank you very much, Tracy. It's an honor for me to be here.
I'm super glad you're here with me today. I usually start off with kind of this audit origin question because a lot of us kind of somehow fall into internal audit. We never kind of went to school for internal audit. So how did you find your way into the profession?
I think it actually find me at the right time in the right moment of my life. I was working as an external audit field, and I loved the work. I loved like the audit itself, but I had my doubts if external audit was the right career for me. I did not like the sales element of external audit. And I was in that moment looking for something in which I can continue doing what I liked, that was audit. And I got this call from a recruiter saying, would you be interested in joining the internal audit team of the Coca-Cola company? And like, you can never say no to Coke. That's how I ended up in internal audit. And it's been a journey, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
And what do you love most about it?
I think it's the breadth and the wideness of it. Like you can look at so many parts of the businesses. Like you can look at revenue, you can look at finance, you can look at operations, you can look at quality, compliance. You can really, really find out so much more, understand so much more of the business through the perspective. And also, I love it because you have so much possibility to get in touch with the senior leaders of the company from a young start that in no career have I seen that. And because it's like, it's usually audits are between 6 to 8 weeks. So you know that as soon as one is over, your next one starts, and it's sometimes completely different. So it gives you this variety of topics that makes it quite interesting because no audit is the same. And that keeps you kind of like changing, and I love it.
I think that's one of the best things about it. I remember when I was in financial services for about 3 years, and I went to the controller and I said, I'm on all these project calls, and I'm running. And they looked at me and they're like, you have the best job in the entire department because you don't just do month-end close,
Yes.
over and over and over and over. So that's, I think, one of the best things about audit.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can go up and down the hierarchy and it's all good and it's all welcome, you're not in a box somewhere.
Like you say, for me, it is absolutely the best career. It is absolutely the best job you can have at a company.
I love that. Was there something that you had thought about internal audit or you learned later that it wasn't exactly what you expected?
For me, I always had the perception that internal audit was just only related to finance, specifically reviewing accounting work. And also just saying to people, hey, you did this wrong. Hey, you booked this incorrectly. And for me, it's so much more. Like I mentioned, it's about the breadth of the processes that you get involved, but also a good aspect of it is you're able to share best practices with the business because you're involved in so many different projects and looking at so many different processes that you can really say to the business and really create tangible improvement just by saying like, hey, in your colleagues in Finland are doing this process a little bit different and they are saving this amount of time. And this really is for me kind of like a unique approach to audit. Like it's not just about reviewing numbers, it's about helping business.
And is that welcome from the business?
Um, it it actually it's a relationship and you need to build this relationship and you need to focus on how you're adding value to the business, how you are taking their inputs, how you are processing what they are saying. A key aspect is you need to listen to your business. You cannot, doesn't mean that you need to agree with them, but you need to listen to them and you need to develop this relationship with them.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm sure that's going to come up more as we dive into the
Yes.
conversation. When I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, as one does these days, I saw that you moved away from audit at one point in your career, and then you returned to audit, which I think most of us do. I always say once an auditor, always an
I was
auditor.
an auditor.
But what took you out, and then what brought you back in?
I left audit because I wanted to be a better auditor. So I loved audit and I loved my profession and I loved what I was doing. But I noticed that on the engagement in which we had directors that have come to the business, their impact as to the findings, as to the way they were approaching audit was different than just for those ones that have been only done career in audit. That having this experience of being the other side of the business will give them more credibility and more insights as to what the business really needed in an audit. So I thought to myself, like, I want to learn that. I want to learn those skills. And being outside actually taught me the importance of internal audit because we would do things or not do things because we knew that internal audit was going to come and look at it. And it was a really good for us as middle level management to go back to your boss and say, like, no, because this will never pass audit. I cannot do it because audit will not be happy with this. So it really gives you kind of like a shield from um, topics. And I really, really also understood when I was on the other side what it is to be audited. So, and the difference in the quality of audits. So from people that were just come with a checklist and just wanted to look and to tick mark, okay, I needed to ask this question, and people that were really interested in understanding my processes, in understanding what I was doing, in understanding why were we doing things the way we were doing. So that also taught me like the quality of what to teach younger teams as to when they are doing an audit. And when I felt that I have learned enough, I decided to come back to audit. And it was not an easy move because I have been many years out, but I was able to do it. And I think this being on the other side of the table give me a lot of credibility when I'm talking to the business to say, I was there with you. I know what you mean when you don't have time. I know what you mean when you're telling me you're busy doing month-end closing. Like, I know what you mean. And it also gives you a really unique perspective when you're looking at a risk. Is this really material enough? What do they really need to do? Can they tweak a little bit the current processes and mitigate this risk? Or do we really need to ask them to do something completely different? So it really helps you understand the other side when you are conducting an audit.
Absolutely. And it just reminds me, when I review audit reports for clients and the recommendation is implement a new process. And I'm like,
Yeah,
really, really need a whole new
the
process? Because
process.
imagine the amount of work,
Yes,
and they're just curling up inside from the thought of having to do this.
yes,
So
exactly.
it does give you a whole different
Yes.
perspective. So let's say you have a young audit team,
Mm.
and what would you tell them based on what you learned? If you had to give them like the number one piece of advice that you learned that you would like them to know when they go to do that next audit.
The key thing is to understand the process. You need to understand the process. Don't audit the documentation. Don't go beyond the documentation. Look at the numbers that are included in those documentations. Are those things the one that are they make sense or not? And build good relationship with your auditee. Those are the key things. And just have fun.
I love that too. I do think audit is fun. And I obviously, because of the training that I do, I think, communication and building relationships is so, so, so important.
Yes.
And it's a great skill to share and encourage in our younger auditors
Mm, yeah.
so that they get that development early on.
Mm.
So then, what do you do differently now that you're back that you didn't do before?
I really try to find ways to add value and just find ways to tell the business what they're doing right. Just not to focus on, yes, there are things that are not going well and we should talk about it, but take at least 5 minutes of your closing meeting to tell them what they're doing right, what you're going to take from it. And just for them kind of like to motivate it to continue. And also depending on the level of maturity of the business, sometimes they do need a little bit more help with the recommendations that you're giving them. Like go a little bit deeper into what you specifically want to see next time you go there to audit. Not write it for them, but just be very, very clear and transparent what you want to do, what you want to see. And also, like I mentioned, I try to build this relationship and understand their needs from internal audit. What do they want from us? What do they feel they are missing from us as a function?
I love that. I also think about, in that planning phase for the audit is really finding out what are their objectives? What are their
Yes,
objectives for their departments? What are their objectives
yes,
for the audit? What are their pain points that they have? It doesn't mean that audit's there to solve the pain points, but if we know about them, we can keep our spidey senses on,
exactly.
as we're doing the audit. So you're in a new role now at a major energy technology company. What drew you to this particular role and what's your mandate?
So in my previous role, I soon realized after 2 years that I had reached the top, that I did not have any more learning possibilities. And I have achieved everything that I could achieve with my team. And I simply refused to believe that that was it, that I had just to settle and just continue going. And I decided, no, let me look how audit is done at a bigger corporation, at with more resources, in a more international and global scale. So I decided to join my new employer just because of the learning possibilities. And for me, it's kind of like doing a move across a career step like to the side. So I have a higher ladder to climb. So this is my my current mandate is we are the assurance team that I'm involved is around 135 people now. So we have internal audit, internal controls, and enterprise risk management. And I am basically involved in all of the strategic problems, all of the strategic programs, the strategy, how to integrate these functions because they are all relatively new as a group. How do we integrate more so they are not in isolation, working in silos? But there's one unique way of risk, one unique way of weaknesses, of findings, and I'm in charge of transformation, in charge of people. I'm basically the right hand of the VP of Assurance, our Chief Audit Executive. And it is quite a really vast role because it make I can look at the methodology, understand, okay, what are we doing wrong? How can we better link with internal controls? So it's quite a very enriching role. And my immediate mandate is to make sure that we have a good quality assurance audit result. So I'm also preparing the business for that.
Ah, okay. So that's coming up soon, is it?
Yes, that's coming up soon.
And I would say that what I see is that more and more chief audit executives are also responsible for
Yes.
risk and compliance. What's the feeling of that? Is this new for you? And how does that change your perspective?
No, it's not new for me. In my previous role, I had also internal controls and enterprise risk management under me. And when I was talking with my peers, there were very few companies in Germany that had only internal audit. It was usually internal audit plus compliance, internal audit plus enterprise risk management, internal audit plus investigations. So it was always internal audit plus, which for me, I see that our profession is evolving. It's more, it's our scope of work is being increased, that they see that the C-level are seeing the capabilities of people that are in internal audit and then say like, yes, they can do on top compliance. They can do on top. We need their capability to lead risk. We need their capabilities to lead internal controls. And also from a company perspective, it's better because they have like these functions more integrated and there's a more unique approach in which they are looking into topics. And otherwise, you have one area telling cybersecurity is perfect, and internal audit coming by the side and saying like, no, guys, we have so many findings. So it's kind of like a way to unify it and have the business talk in one voice in topics of governance.
So do you think we're finally achieving some of what we've always talked about in the industry, where we wanted to have a broader
Yes.
impact and influence
Yes.
and a seat at the table?
Yes. But I think like finally the focus is started on us and what we are able to do and what we are able to contribute to the business. So we're now in the spotlight. So we as a function need to take advantage of that and use all the opportunities they give us to further cement this.
I think that's amazing. I think that's amazing.
Yeah,
We've come a long way.
I
Yes.
know. It's very interesting time for people to join the profession. It's very interesting.
And the question I have, is how it's probably beyond the scope of what we're talking about, is how we encourage others to join
Mm,
this, not just a profession, it's almost like a movement, right? It's like, how do we make things better? And it's such a unique perspective that
yes.
we have. And I mean, those of us who are in it think it's like so exciting and there's so many great things. It's just getting more younger folks to see and be aware, because everybody I talked to on the podcast, nobody went, internal audit as a career, I think I'll go do that, right? It's just everybody, we've all brushed it, or we've been dropped into it, or we accidentally stumbled over it.
Mm,
And so how do we actually encourage more, what's the word I'm looking for, strategic choices
yeah.
into audit,
I think we need to do a better job in promoting ourselves as a function. We need to do a better job in promoting ourselves since people are at university. like teaching them like, oh, you have consulting and you can do corporate finance and you can do investment banking, and also tell them like you can do internal audit and you're going to travel a lot, that you're going to look into different parts of the business, that you're going to be looking into talking to C-level, that you're going to be having a very big influence. So are you sure you want to do consulting when internal audit is offering you the same, plus more fun, less competition, more camaraderie? So I think like we're missing that a big opportunity to teach young people what internal audit is all about.
And I know for me, it was one course at university that I took, and it just blew my mind. I thought, "This is fun. This is exciting." And, uh, and yeah, never looked back really. You know,
Yeah.
when I was an auditor, we had
Mhm.
to work in one of the big firms. Like, there was no question
Yes,
to be
yes.
to be a chartered accountant in Canada, you
Mm,
had to work at one of the big firms.
mm.
But it's not really till you leave that you really see the possibilities.
Yes. I had the the same experience. Like internal audit is not really taught here at university as a course. You might have accounting, you might have controlling, external audit even, but not what internal audit does. So that kind of like confuses people a little bit. It's like, okay, why would I change from being external audit to doing internal audit, and hate it, being hated externally to being hated internally?
I remember the days when you walked into the department and everybody turned away and, like, you
Yes,
looked under their desks and got up and left the room, all those kinds of things. No, I do remember that, but, I'm thankful that for a lot of us that that's changed, not for everyone,
yes,
unfortunately, but, we are actively working on changing the
yes,
perception. And just listening to you talk about, the breadth of scope under your chief audit executive, that tells me that, uh, things are changing.
yeah.
Because more and more conversations I'm having with the podcast guests are that
Mhm.
audit has more responsibilities.
Yes, and I also see like the perception is completely different. Like people are happy to have an audit team. People C-level are quite relieved to have an audit team. It should be us being helping them to sleep better at night because they know they have a good audit team. That should be like this should be kind of like thanking us, like, okay, yeah, no, everything is not everything is under
And
control, but like I have a good audit team that would um
yeah.
let me know if something is going wrong.
No, I do think that's important to imagine
Mhm.
what keeps the C-suite up or what wakes them up at
Yeah.
3:30 in the morning in a cold sweat,
Mhm.
because that's the kind of stuff that we
Yes.
need to be looking at, to see how we can help
Mm.
alleviate that.
Exactly.
So speaking of all of that, and you also mentioned adding value. So what does it mean to add value through audit, and how do you know when you're achieving it?
Well, for me to add a value, this is something I focus a lot on my team is we need to be telling the business something they don't know, something material that they do not know. Because if we keep telling them what they already know, we are not doing any contribution. And the last thing they want is have an 20 pages report with findings that are not material, that are not relevant, that are just not that impactful for them
Wordy,
in
all those things.
worthy, all of things. So for me, it's like that is it. Telling them something they don't know that is material in their business. This is one point, and second is telling them about best practice that you have seen across other functions, other companies, other entities that would help them in their day-to-day role, in their managing their operations. So this is for me like the two key aspects of how I see our role in internal audit is how we can add value to the business.
And is everyone on the team aware of that kind of perspective of adding value?
This is something we need to teach our younger generation, just to go beyond that. It is not quantity of audits, a quantity of findings. Is all about quality of the findings. Like I used to say to my team, stop chasing the small little amounts. Nobody cares about it. Everybody will forget in 1-3 years time. Look at the whole end-to-end process and understand what things are not going correctly, and do we have some mitigating controls if we find something that is not done at the start of the process. This is the things that you need to follow. There's a little bit about a lot of coaching as to how we can bring this to our teams.
Coaching is so important.
Um,
So is that where auditors typically fall short? Is that they're reporting on things that don't really matter, or is it something else?
Reporting on things that don't really matter, do not understanding the process, looking just at the documentation, follow on checklist, and just prescribing themselves as to what is on the testing steps, and not thinking a little bit outside the box as to how we should better look into this. Like I said to them, testing steps are a suggestion of the work you should be doing, but it's not set in stone that you cannot change it and adjust it based on what you are seeing. So it is for me those aspects in which we are falling short. But it also has to do, like we mentioned before, since there's no real course in the university that will tell you how to audit, you just need to learn by doing. So and get better by doing, by doing, by doing, by doing, by doing.
Absolutely. And I think, critical thinking skills are so important, and being able to see the big picture and being able to connect the dots
Yeah,
and then provide that level of insight and even foresight.
yeah.
So how does that play out with the board? What is your approach to building a productive relationship with the audit committee and with the board? And how have you done that in the past? And I know you're new in the role today, so there's probably some gaps there at this point.
So, first of all, you need to do your homework. You need to understand who is in your board and what is their background. And
Mhm.
in the majority of the time, what I have noticed is you have maybe one person with audit background, which is usually the chairman of the audit committee. But the rest of the board do not have accounting or this pure audit background. So when you talk to them, what I used to do is try to put the findings, even though they were in other areas, into areas that they would know. So give them examples as to in the areas that they were the subject matter expert, for them to have an understanding as to, okay, what am I here trying to tell them? So this is when I was having meetings with them, or virtually on in person when I was presenting the audit findings, and also have a very transparent conversations and understanding what are their pain points, what are their concerns from the company that they want assurance on. What are they seeing that you are not seeing that it's relevant for you to look into? So having this really good communication, a good exchange into listening to their points, adjusting your audit plan, being flexible and trying to understand what are their focus point that you can then um, look into from an audit or from an internal controls or through a risk management, just to give them this assurance that they need.
And I know we talk about the audit committee or we talk about the board, and it's this body of people. And how do you handle the individuals within the audit committee, for example? Because I imagine some of them must be very different, have different
Yeah.
levels of understanding, different goals, maybe different understanding of what audit should do.
Yes. So what I used to do in the past is before we had an audit committee session, I would have a one-to-one with the chairman and present to him what are more or less my thoughts of what I wanted to present in that bigger meeting, and go with him into the some of the details that I was not going to be able to cover in the main audit committee meeting, and going to the details, just and answering all of the questions that he had. So when the main audit committee meeting happened, I already had someone there on that meeting that was in my side, that knew what was going to happen, that knew what was I going to be presenting, that already had anticipated some of the questions from the other members. So that also helped good kind of like smooth the transition, and that also helped in driving the conversations into a more productive way. Unfortunately, in general, you only have 20-30 minutes in an audit committee meeting after 2-3 hours. So you need to be really skillful as to selecting what information you want to show to them, and what is more relevant for them to know. This is what you need, a lot of skills in understanding their perspective and understanding what information they need and for them to be able to do their job.
Oh, you're speaking to the choir. I love all that language you're using. I love pre-meetings. Like if I'm going to
Yes.
have a meeting with a bunch of people and there's someone who I know could get pushback,
Yes.
could be a little challenging, might have contrary points of view that could disrupt the meeting, I might go and just have a conversation with them in
Yeah.
advance just to make sure that not just that we're aligned, but that I understand,
Hmm.
what it is that their perspective might be so I can
Yes.
handle that in the meeting. So is relationships key
Mhm.
then, I guess is what I'm hearing from you.
Yes. Relationship is key. And a good relationship with your chairman or chairwoman of your audit committee. That is key.
Mhm.
That is key.
And what happens, I don't know if you face this situation, when you have somebody walks in, brand new audit committee member, is that an extra burden?
I see it as an extra way to understand a new perspective. There's like I say, like, oh, a challenge, a new challenge, a new voice that might trying to understand what can this person bring into my function, and trying to use that. If I had someone from marketing, for example, and I start asking him, like, from a marketing perspective, what are the topics that we are not covering, that we have not covered in the past? What is his concern? What should be looking into? So that gives you kind of like understanding a new bring like a new perspective from a subject matter expert, the highest subject matter expert you can find in a field. Because if the person has reached that point, it's because of a reason. So to always try to leverage their knowledge into your processes and into your way you look at things.
So it's opportunity.
Yes. For me, it's opportunity.
Nice.
It's opportunity.
Let's talk for a minute about the perception of internal audit within an organization, because I know you've worked for multiple organizations, and I always look at auditors as educators. I don't know how you feel about that. Do you think auditors are educators?
Yes. I like to start my audits, and this is something I told my team to use, the analogy of an audit is like going to the dentist for your yearly checkup. You never know what's going to happen, but people go there not because they want to tell them what is wrong. They go there just to confirm that things are going right. So this is how I told them, like, okay, this is the way you should approach. Like, it is, and sometimes yes, sometimes you're going to have a finding, sometimes things are not going to be correctly, but you should focus in on, yes, from all of the things that are going right, this piece is not going correctly. Let's look into this. You need to floss better. You need to do this piece better to fix this. So I always try to kind of like, when you're starting an audit, to use this analogy to help kind of like the the auditee and bring it in a positive frame of mind.
It actually is a good analogy because you go to get your teeth cleaned every 6 months, not because you have something wrong, but to
Mm,
prevent something being wrong. You floss because
yeah.
you need to prevent things from going wrong. And then when something does go wrong, you're in good hands and with a good chair side manner where they're walking you through the process of how it's going to get better. It's just that they're
Yeah.
doing instead of audit doing the work. It's just I like that. I like that analogy. So, what do you do if someone in C-suite, or it could be the board, I suppose, but someone has had a bad experience with audit in the past?
Mm.
How do we overcome those negative perceptions or feelings?
I always tell them like we are on the same boat. We are all working for the same company. Our aim for both of parties is to make the company better. It's not like I want to be against you or I'm working against you. Like our aim for both departments is to make the company better, is to make the company safer. So I always try to bring the commonalities in the relationship as to how we can move forward, and if possible try to understand what went wrong so we can avoid that from happening. So we can
Mm.
instruct the teams like, okay, we need more meetings. We need to explain the issues better. We need to be more focused into giving them more information and giving them more statuses as to where they are, avoid any surprises. So this is kind of like the the topic to do. Remind them that we are working together and also understanding what are their concerns. So then we can tackle it in the next audit and follow up and ask them like, did it went better this time?
That's key to relationship management, I think,
Yeah.
is the follow-up, and just because an audit's over doesn't mean we have to walk away and not see
Mhm.
them for 3 years or whenever it is that we might audit
Exactly.
them again. But when you talk about it, we're on the same boat and we
Yeah.
work for the same company, the word independence comes to my mind,
Mm.
and does anyone ever want you to be like, "Okay, then tell me how to fix this?"
Yeah.
And what do you do with that?
And that is always like like how now that you find the problem, tell me how I need to fix it. And it's this is kind of like you go to the teaching part. So like you bring your internal controls colleague, sit down with them and say like, hey, I'm leaving you now with the expert in fixing problems.
So you can hand it off.
Exactly. Hand it up. The I think the worst thing that we can do is tell them this is not my role, this is not my job. You go and fix it. I think we need to give them a solution. Doesn't mean like you have to fix them for them, but at least contact them with the people that are going to fix them.
Yeah.
Help them fixing the issue, give them a guideline of what they need to do. Like, oh, you need a new policy, you need a new procedure, you need a new guideline. But doesn't mean like you have to write the guideline for them.
Right. Right. So I do like that because I find that audit teams that are open to having the conversation about how to
Yeah.
implement, what to implement, not doing it for them, not telling them what to do, but
Mm.
almost like a coach role. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly. You need to coach your auditees. Don't leave them with a problem and then just walk away.
So a bit of collaboration, a bit of like, well, let's put the minds together and you tell us what you think, and
Mhm.
we can give you a comment here and there and kind of coach them through, or connect them, as you were saying, with someone who can help them, whether it's someone in compliance or
Mm.
risk management or whoever it
And
is
it
that knows better.
And this is very important when we're especially dealing with not very mature companies that are growing that are transitioning from startups into more stable companies because they not all the time they have the processes in place. So here's a more like this the coaching element of what they need to do is higher because more of the people that are involved have never been audited before, don't have experience of audit in the past. So you need to kind of like give them these additional, I would say like coaching as to what they need to do to make things better.
Yeah, I think the different levels of maturity of a company have a
Yeah.
real impact on the role that audit can play or
Yes.
should play. And when it's a startup and they first get their internal audit function
Mhm.
on the ground, it can be a real shock to them
Yes.
when they get an audit report. So I don't know. I have one client who in that startup phase didn't actually issue audit reports, just worked in collaboration with them to get the foundation right because they were so new
Mhm.
and in that startup phase.
Yes, or sometimes is it worth actually to audit? Sometimes it's better just to do kind of like consultation services. If there's no process in place to audit, it's just like if there's no process, what are you going to audit? Better to sit down with them and kind of like giving kind of like a high level overview how their process should look, or what is the controls that they should be aware that they need to implement. Otherwise,
Mhm.
it's just it's not going
Not
to add
helpful,
any
is it?
exactly. It's not going to be helpful or add any value at that point.
Well, let me turn now to the big question on everybody's mind, which is AI in IA. Artificial intelligence and internal audit. Where do you think AI fits in an audit and risk function? And what have you tried so far?
So I think it's such a good enable of productivity to improve productivity. I don't see any tool replacing an auditor. I see it as a tool that helps an auditor be faster, cover more scope, and produce better results. I created a chatbot for my previous company. So we put some of our manuals and policies and guidelines and very detailed Q&A. We use Notebook LM. This is
Mm.
a Google product, which is a really, really good tool. So it helped the business answering questions they had for a specific topic. And it reduce our work because then we did not need it to be answering the questions. They could just ask the chatbot, what are my risks? How do I, what is my deadlines? What are my thresholds? So for them, it was kind of like providing answers to questions they had. And we also implemented that model for our internal documentation. So we also created a chatbot for us. We fed our manuals, we fed our policy and our guidelines. So when we had a question about our methodology, we just asked the chatbot, like, how many samples do I need if I have a daily control? How many samples do I need if I have a weekly controls? How long do I need to keep my audit documentation? So everything was kind of like at the top of your fingertips and in terms of answering basic questions.
So there were two chat box, one for use
Yes.
internally within the
Yes.
department and one for the business.
Yes.
I love that.
My colleagues from all the departments liked it so much, they also started creating their own chatbots for their own roles. Like compliance did their chatbot, and treasury did their chatbot. So we had like at the end a lot of chatbots, but it was so easy. It makes life so easy for us, especially when you're dealing with not big teams. It really helps.
I mean, that's an incredible resource.
Yes.
And that's one of the simple ways you can add value, right?
Exactly.
Adding value
Exactly.
doesn't just mean doing audits.
Yes.
And where do you see the use of AI going for internal audit?
I see it as now we're talking about agentic AI and created agents that helped with looking at complete populations and looking at complete sets of data. So I see AIs as helping process the data, but at the end, you need an auditor to look at the results to understand, yes, we have here something, and or this is not false positive. We have here something. So for me, it's like an enabler to what's more to come.
Mm-hmm. I think I mean every time we get a new tool, there's a little bit of disruption, right? I
Mhm.
think, it feels like it took a long time for data analytics to really
Yes.
take hold. And that the AI movement is much quicker
Mm.
than the data analytics one. But now it's like taking it to the next level. But I also think it's not going to replace auditors. And if it does replace auditors, you've got a bigger problem on your hands at that
Mm.
company,
Yes,
right?
yes, you do. You do. I see it as it's not going to replace it, but audit teams are not going to be that big. So if you're going to be in an audit team, you need to skill up. You cannot have the same skills as a chatbot, as an AI. You need to have a different selling point as what you can do, what you can offer, what you can bring to the table that a chatbot or an agent cannot bring.
So what do you think that is? What does that look like?
I think that it is more to do with judgment, critical thinking, relationship building, and just and a chatbot will not bring you best practices or will not give you these connections between different parts of the business. A chatbot will be just in case you, for very specific task oriented, you need to do this every quarter, every day. While an auditor can do more this relationship building with the business to understand what do they need.
And I just think context is so important.
Yes.
And the LLMs today don't have all the context. So we're safe for a while.
Yes.
But they when you're in that audit committee meeting, they don't see the look in the eyes or
Yeah.
the upturn or downturn of the
Mm.
smile or the stress in the body
Yeah.
or all those kinds of things that's still we as humans should be
Mm.
able to do. And auditors should be doing that, right? To read the whole
Yeah.
message you're getting from someone.
Yep. I agree with you, Tracy.
But it's not going to slow down. I can tell you that.
No.
All right. Let's talk about team building. I'm a big fan of, as we talked about, coaching. I also like the mentoring aspect.
Mm.
Um, I like to encourage auditors to focus on their communication skills, which we've often referred to as soft skills, which I think we should call power skills now with everything that's happening out in the world. So, when you're building an audit team, what do you look for in the people that you're hiring or that you're mentoring?
Diversity. Diversity of backgrounds, diversity of experience, diversity also of personality to fit better the team. That diversity for me is just like all the skills can be taught if the person is interested and the person is really willing. But like this diversity of thought cannot be taught. And this is what you need in a team.
I love that. Because I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago, and they have, I don't know, like 14 nationalities on their audit team, and there's only 16 people on the
Yeah.
audit team. So it's really quite
Yeah.
incredible the different perspectives that we bring.
Mhm.
That's what I love about diversity. Is
Mhm.
not diversity for the sake of diversity, but the diversity for the different perspectives,
Yeah.
because we're all our own person with our own experiences, our own perspectives, and we just haven't seen as much. And when we're together, then we see more. So when I look at the diversity, I think of you because you've worked on 3 different continents. You're from Peru, you're living and working in Germany. You have all these different perspectives. You speak how
Mhm.
many languages?
Three.
3
Three.
languages. That brings
Yeah.
something. We used to say about people in a certain region in Canada, I won't repeat the whole thing, but it's like they are born, live, and die in 50-kilometer radius, right? And it's a can be a very good life, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but it doesn't give you the perspectives that someone
Yeah.
like you gets. So how has that changed what you do and what you bring to audit?
I I'm originally from Peru, but I've been living abroad for around 20 years now. I like to introduce myself as the perfect mixture between German efficiency but with Latino charm.
I love that. I mean, I lived in Germany for 20 years. I love Germany. It is half of
Yes.
my heart. So I feel like I can say this with all the love in my heart. No one is ever going to talk about German charm, right? There are so many amazing things about German people and German culture, and I miss it terribly.
Yeah.
Uh, but you bring both sides to that.
So it's good because I appreciate the directness of the German culture, and I take it and I use it, and I also bring this other aspect into building the relationship, like I like more like this, more like this familiar aspect, more like this. Hey, how was the weekend? How are you doing? Let's grab a coffee together. More like this other aspect from my personality, from my culture into the relationship. So it's kind of like it helps a lot in like having this different perspective. Like I was recently at a conference, and there was a group of people from China, and I was telling them of my time in Hong Kong and how it like it helps build like these connections.
Right.
And Tracy, at one point, this profession is about connections. It's
It
about
totally is.
it's about building the relationship, building the connections. So that really helped this diversity of thought, diversity of experience in being the possibility of building these connections.
I think it's so important. And having lived in Germany for 20 years, and I'd be having conversations in my very poor German. And then I would drop some nugget and they're like, "You're from
Yes,
Canada." And their faces would light up,
yes,
because either they've been to Canada and they had a positive experience or they wanna go, right? It's on a
yes,
lot of people's bucket lists, I guess.
yes,
Um, so it's finding those connections. So being from Canada connects us in different ways, being from
mhm,
Peru or having been to Hong Kong or whatever it is,
yes,
it provides those little connections that we
mhm,
all need. I did a communication skills mastery workshop on last week and talking just about this, how it's so important to
yes,
understand and just to be, and I know it's not for everyone because not everyone is as open as
mhm,
we are. And some might say, for goodness sake, can you tone it down? Right? Like if you look at the bell curve in general, Canada are friendly and open, and when you come for a week to work here, we will invite you for a drink and we will
yes.
invite you to our home for a barbecue on the weekend. And in other cultures, it's just not the same. It doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong. It's just a different overall feel and flavor. So when you come back to diversity, we want to bring all those perspectives together.
But something that I notice, and this is that there are more things that bring us together that actually separate us from country to country.
Right.
There are a lot more topics that brings two completely different cultures together than what it is like that brings them apart. So this is what I really, really enjoy on having these different experiences and talking to different from people from different parts of the world. Just finding out what are our similarities.
Yeah. You know, somebody said to me once, we all eat with a fork. Well, we don't all eat with a fork. We all eat somehow
Yeah.
with our two hands unless we're unable to. So whether it has chopsticks
Mm,
in them or we're actually eating with our fingers or we're using a knife and a fork, we all eat the same way. The food goes in the same
exactly.
place. So we have commonalities
Mm,
that are simple, and we just need to look for them when we're struggling. Like, I'm not getting along with this person. I'm challenged by this person. I'm getting pushback from this person. Find that commonality
yeah,
and build
exactly.
from there. And sometimes we have to go quite basic. Some are more challenging than others, I have to say. But, we find the basics and then we work together. And as long as we're open minded and generally want the best for people, then I think we're on the right path.
Yeah.
So that takes me to a little bit deeper in inclusion and community. You founded a Latino professional
Mhm.
network within a large corporate environment, and I'm wondering what made you want to do that, and what did it take to do that?
I was homesick, Tracy. I
Ah,
was homesick. So I've been living abroad for over 20 years. So on average, I speak more English or German than Spanish. So I was having like this really wanted to have more at work, more like my culture, like listening to my like my language. So I knew a couple of people from Colombia and from Venezuela that were in the Berlin office, and some people that also from Latin America that were based in Madrid. But they did not know each other. So I was the only point in common. So I decided, okay, let's bring everybody together and let's do this Latino network. And it was great because I was not the only one that was going through that experience. There were a lot of people that were living abroad that also was missing this part of their culture in their day-to-day life. And it was a very unique network because it was cross-functional. It was not only for finance. So we had people from procurement, from operations, from IT, from sales, from marketing, and across all geographies of the company. We even had someone from Mexico that was living in Kuala Lumpur. And he he really enjoyed like these conversations because it was not part of his day-to-day life speaking Spanish. So it was really a good way to learn from each other because we will present what are our functions we're doing, what are the projects we were working on. So it was a good way to also learn a little bit more about the business
Yeah.
and also have fun while you're doing it. So it took a lot of organization skills, but it was kind of like my side project, like my little baby, and I loved it. I'm trying to do the same thing here, by the way.
That's wonderful. And so
Yeah.
how does that orientation towards community show up in your audit work?
So I always try to see like who am I auditing? Who is my auditee? Where they coming from? Where's their background? And also what am I auditing? And just to understand, okay, what can I bring to them from my experience, especially from my background that would help them? And also look like at the human aspect of this. What is this person needing? This person needing like someone to speak with them in Spanish, then let's speak with them in Spanish. Let's move the conversation. Like sometimes people just want to practice their Spanish. So great, let's practice your Spanish with me. So it's a little
Absolutely.
bit
It's just
checking
another
it.
opportunity,
Mhm.
you know?
Exactly.
Another opportunity to create that relationship, to build rapport,
Connection. Build the connection.
connection. It's all about connection. Absolutely.
Mm.
What's the most important thing you've learned about leading people in all your career? And where did that lesson come from?
Each people is unique, and you cannot have a standard across the board style when managing people. That you need to adapt your management style to your individual member of the team. So there are people with more coaching needs. There are people that like more guidance. There are people that like less guidance. There are people that like to be more challenged than other people. So you need to adapt your style to what suits better from the individual members of your team. For me, it's like to be a good leader, you need to see what your team is missing from a team perspective, but also from an individual member perspective. So not one size of leadership do not fits all. And I learned it just based on my conversations and interactions with my team. I like having these feedback sessions, and feedback goes both ways. So I want to understand I need to understand what I can do better to help them.
I love that. And what do you wish someone had told you earlier about leadership?
That it is hard. That it is hard. That it takes a lot of time. That is not something like, oh, you can do by the side. No, that if you really want to be a good leader, if you really want to be a good manager, you need to take the time. And you need to prioritize. And prioritizing is putting your team first. But it's a very rewarding experience, especially when you see your team achieving things that they have not thought were possible.
Absolutely. My favorite thing used to be to work myself out of a job because you
Yes,
develop your team
yes,
to the point where one of them can step into your role.
yes, exactly.
And has your view of what good leadership looks like changed over the years?
I think for me, I always had this perspective when I was young, like the leaders were very disconnected from their team.
Mhm.
Like they were doing their own things and they did not know what their team was doing, or the details of what their team was doing, that they did not care about their team. So for me, like that has changed in the terms of like basically by seeing and having experience like good managers versus bad managers, like always trying to learn like what can I take from this person that I can apply for my future team? Like what I don't want to do when I apply, that I don't want to do. I don't want to repeat. I don't want to go. I want to break the cycle that I can do with my team.
I love both those perspectives because that's what I was thinking when you were speaking is
Mhm.
it's also what I don't wanna take with me,
Yes.
you know? And when you look ahead at the contribution you wanna make to this profession, not just in the roles you hold, but in the mark that you leave, what do you hope that looks like?
Our profession needs to be more technology driven. We need to be more data driven. We need to use AI in a better way to help us be better, to help us be more productive, to help us increase the capabilities of our role. This is one topic. And second topic, I want to see more women in leadership positions. There are so few female chief audit executives. It hurts. It really hurts. So we need more women in on all roles within an internal audit function. And we need to help each other. We need to pull each other. We need to open the doors for each other. We need to break glass ceiling for each other. Because if we do not do it, nobody else will.
I couldn't say it better myself. Thank you so much, Fiorella, for being on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Inspiring Women in Audit podcast. We'd love for you to stay part of our growing community, so subscribe wherever you're listening. If you're enjoying our content on platforms like iTunes or Spotify, a quick 5-star rating from you would mean the world to us. It's a small action that supports our mission immensely. Don't forget to explore the show notes for various links and join our vibrant community on all our social media platforms. Your interaction and support play a crucial role in amplifying the voices of inspiring women in audit and spreading their inspiring stories even further. Thank you for being a part of our journey, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Inspiring Women in Audit podcast.